Yes, 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 everybody. Happy Friday. Got a special treat for you today. Live in-person guests. It's always nice to feel some little sense of normalcy when we're dealing with all the crazy shit that we've had to deal with over this year. So today, I'm going to bring it in hot with my buddy Mark Friedman of Friedmans Pastrami. I usually offer you a message of the week. This week, it's a question. I'm going to ask Mark, why? Why?
Why what?
Why are you starting a pastrami company?
I didn't know I was.
That's the best. This is what it's all about, folks. Entrepreneurship, how you stumble into it, how you get started, why do you do it? Mark got a full-time job. Mark owns a home in Brooklyn. He got a wife and kids. Everything is peachy. He got a car. Why are you trying to fuck that all up?
You know, I've been. It's funny. I've been thinking.
Been thinking about that lately.
I've been thinking about that, but I've been thinking about this all day, and I've been thinking about the entrepreneurial web, and I've been thinking about entrepreneurship. And yes, I have a job, man. I have.
Tell everybody your day job.
Sure.
What's your job?
So I work for a title insurance company called Stewart Title, and as you might surmise, it's not the most thrilling of professions. No. But I work in business development after over 13 years in operations. 2 years ago, I switched companies from one of the big ones to another big one, and I moved into a sales position, or as we call it in the business development.
Yeah.
And it's definitely allowed me to sort of spread my entrepreneurial wings a little bit more than the rote side of operations. But I've been thinking about this show and you and entrepreneurship. You know, it dawned on me at some point today that I think that, you know, people who have creative souls, who find themselves working in jobs to make money to support lives and feel stifled in their creativity. I think that since like 1995, kind of like .com explosion, I think that the new entrepreneurship has become kind of the new creative form of expression over the last, 20, 25 years. So a guy like me who's been working this, you know, very kind of not very thrilling job has always had my hand in something entrepreneurial or creative. And this is this is just the latest crazy harebrained scheme that I have, but it's the one that seems to be like drawing the most attention from other people. So, you know, that's why I'm doing this.
And that's a huge part of entrepreneurship too, is the realization of what works.
Right.
And kind of listening to the market. I was just having that discussion outside with that couple when you rolled up,
right.
About who Della is, what it means to people, and how it best services them. So to give everybody a little background, Mark here started this pastrami company, Friedmans Pastrami, but he doesn't have a brick and mortar location. So we've been operating pop-ups out of my restaurant, Della, here, where we're actually sitting right now in Brooklyn. And the first one was in August. We hosted it as a fundraiser, and we just
crushed it.
We
big donation to Feeding America.
Yep. And we sold out in an hour and a half. And we were like, I remember the day before, he was like, people are gonna come.
I was convinced no one was coming.
I was like, I got this, don't worry. It wasn't just me, but we got aggressive with the social media promotion, and it worked out, and that's a success. Like, it's better than, you know, throwing it away. And then we did our second one this past Saturday, doubled the quantity, almost doubled the offering, and sold out faster. So that's like, yeah, that's a good indicator of what people are looking for versus the guitar skills you were just describing to me. People aren't lining up for that yet.
No one's lining up. And as I kind of, as I told you beforehand, I mean, one of my the last sort of entrepreneurial batter that I was cooking up was a film that I made, which I was positive was gonna go.
It's gonna blow up.
Yeah,
Right?
it was a scripted film that was supposed to turn into a series about the making of the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was really, professionally done. It was written and produced by me, co-wrote and directed by this amazing filmmaker that I had met. I mean, it's a long story in and of itself, but I was positive that a story, a 10-part series about the making of the Brooklyn Bridge, which is such a crazy story, would absolutely sell. Like, just based on, how many people from all over the world cross this bridge every day. And even if the show was a complete piece of shit and you put it on Netflix, just the fact that everyone's walked over that thing, they'd be like, oh, cool, I'd like to see it. But nothing, crickets. And then, I'm like, smoking meat for the last 10 years. And I'm like, oh, I'm a Jew. I should make some pastrami. I love katzes. And now, I come to you, what was that, in the beginning of the summer, and said, my wife and everybody tells me this is pretty good, but I'm curious, really, is it? Can I do a pop-up? And you're like, sure, why not?
It's the best way to try.
And now I got hats and shirts.
You got swag.
I got swag.
He brought me a shirt tonight. I was like, I'm wearing the dullest shirt for the show.
Can't keep it, I can't even keep it. Now everyone's coming up to me. Yeah. Everyone's coming up to me with amazing ideas. That's the thing. That, you know more about this than me, but what you said before about if the idea is good or the thing itself is good, now instead of me having to sell it to other people, I have other people coming to me with ideas up the wazoo about, oh, you should do this, that. It's crazy.
It is crazy how you get lucky with one thing, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, you're successful. You're you can do this. What about this? What about that? And I'm like, nah, I'm just winging it.
So what are we going to do with this?
Well, what?
I need you, man.
We'll unpack all that by the end of the show. But so Mark also, he connected me with the gentleman that's been on the show as well. Josh Margolis, who don't let me get this. It's the Gowanus Music Club, right?
Correct.
I think I've named it on his show 3 times.
Did you really?
I kept calling it the Brooklyn Music Club.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why.
Yes.
Go ahead. Hilarious. But
Gowanus Music Club.
Gowanus Music
Josh
Club,
is amazing.
And he came on, and I feel like he's a really dialed in entrepreneurial mind as well.
That's the other pot that I have going right now as well.
Talk a little bit about that.
I will.
Mark loves music as well. He's got a passion for music. He was just telling me he's been playing guitar for 20 years, and he just unlocked.
I'm unlocking the secrets of the fretboard. It's a big puzzle that I'm finally getting the box put in front of me so I could see what it is that I'm building. I've been in the music business in a previous life before. I was working at Miramax, and I just love being around musicians and artists, and I've always dreamt of having a label because I do have a more, I don't know, I'm not some, huge successfsul businessman. I've done pretty well for myself. Exactly. Not like you. But I'm very interested in more on the business side of it, I'm from an A&R perspective. And I approached Josh about how he, with Gowanus Music Club, has unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, but maybe as an aside or a byproduct of what he's doing, Gowanus Music Club is, think School of Rock. It's a company that takes kids, puts them together. You have a drummer, a bassist, a guitar player, a singer. They make a kid band. They sign a working professional from around Brooklyn to coach these kids. They learn 4 songs. And then at the end of a 12-week session, they play a show at Joe's Pub or maybe at
what they were doing, not Arlene.
At Rockwood. Rockwood,
yeah.
Right. Great program. And what Josh has done unknowingly has created this amazing talent pool of amazing young musicians. Let's just say if there's 100, 4 of these kids could potentially have a real serious career in music, maybe more than 4. So I approached him about trying to take the next step and take some of this talent and, kind of form like this sort of bridge to what could potentially be a music career. So we brought in another friend of mine, and the three of us are presently developing the idea. So there's not a lot to talk about yet, but I can tell you that we are really humming around something. We're working with hopefully another friend of his who in Williamsburg has a state-of-the-art studio. I don't want to name names yet because he hasn't really signed on yet. But there's some really serious energy cooking around this. Deal up, and yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be involved in some capacity.
Oh my God. Josh there's a label associated with the school already, isn't there?
No, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a recording studio.
No, it's just the band camp, so to speak. Like the School of Rockish kind of thing. They rent space. They rent rehearsal space, and they put 10 bands together. They rehearse and then they do a show.
Yeah, cool. So you got food, film, and music,
and real estate.
But that's not
another project that I'm working
on. But it's really interesting. You could tie those all in together. Like the guy I
cannot hear this.
Not all into one package. Here's the thing. Then this is advice I got very early on. From an early mentor of mine, that I ignored a lot of what he said, like most of it. But he's also been on the show as well, and I apologized publicly to him for ignoring most of his sound advice.
Okay, I can't wait.
I worked for him as a teenager. He's now like...
Is this the guy down in South Carolina?
Virginia, yeah.
Okay.
And he's like franchised and everything. But
right.
One thing he said to me was, once he realized like I was going to school for music, but I had all this, time spent in the restaurant industry, like under him and other people. And he just realized like, I'm not going to do one thing, he was like, it's better to own 20% of 5 things than 100% of one, because things will go up and down.
Can you say that one more time?
It's better to own 20% of 5 things than 100% of one.
Got it.
And, your background in insurance and real estate too, like that's solid long-term investment where like, I think it's really, do you know Ray Dalio? Do you ever? Oh, you gotta check out Ray Dalio.
Okay. Yeah. That's not Ray Donovan, right?
No, Ray Dalio is like, you have to have like billions to just get at a table with him.
Okay.
He's super like brilliant investment strategist. But he always talks about he's talking about these like big portfolios, but the ideology translates down even to like the bottom feeders like you and I, where it's about a mixture of really solid long-term investments, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's real estate or whatever, and then like get a little wild. So you want to start at like guitar school, like go have fun. You know, maybe it'll pop for like 3 years and then dissipate.
Well, it sounds like what he's talking about almost like is in a traditional kind of portfolio investment, like your own wealth management. It sounds like diversification.
Yeah,
you're talking about. It's better to, rather than have all of your money in one stock,
or all in just wild shit, hoping to get rich. He's like, be smart.
Yeah, diversify.
And like, I'm not always so smart.
But let's talk about this because
we're going to take a break, so we'll talk about that.
I have a question for you.
Good. Hold that intensity. You hold that intensity. You all hold tight. We'll be back in just a few. Okay, everybody. If you're just tuning in, welcome back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my friend, neighbor, and fellow entrepreneur. I can give him that title now. Mark Friedman. He had a very passionate
You're not
question.
one until he gives you the title.
No, he earned it. He definitely, by this past Saturday, I was like, you an entrepreneur. I gave him his like stripe. We drew the blood on the.
It was a very sacred ritual.
So you had a very passionate question. Go.
I think this is the key to to any.
We're unlocking the fretboard.
Well, I'm hoping you will help unlock the fretboard because I've had quite.
It'll only cost you
$27. What's it called? Guitar something? Unlock it. I think that any budding entrepreneur. I mean, listen, I've been, even though I just went through the ceremony with you this week, like I've been doing this for 25 years, like trying to get my harebrained ideas into the world. And I think where people like me really get blocked and stop, unfortunately, is raising capital.
Sure, that's a big deal.
So I think that any entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur that's listening to this show, if it already hasn't been discussed, would love to hear, as would I, like techniques, when you're ready, where you should go, how the fuck do you raise money in this goddamn world? It seems like they're giving it away to everyone else, but
right.
How do you get money?
Well, there's a couple different ways. There are investors out there who will drop it on like things with very little consideration. Just like, oh, here you go. I mean, it's interesting. I've had a number of startup guys come on and they talk about them. Just ask for it. Like,
right.
Sometimes you just get it. Sometimes, a lot of times they're just like, no, fuck you. The other ways.
But who are they?
Just money guys, man. There's a bunch of money guys out there.
Are they in the phone book? Do I go to money guys?
Yeah, exactly. Google money guys.
Money guys.
I think most of them.
And I'm not saying you have the answer. I'm saying I think it's just worth a conversation.
It's
at
a
least.
big time conversation. And I would say even further, the best advice I give people that are setting out on this journey is be very smart about your capital. Like, you could do a lot of damage with a little bit of capital. You could fuck everything up with a lot of capital. You know what I'm saying? You could have like a ton of money and totally blow it. I think it's better. I think you learn lessons better. And I think it's better to start with less and put in the hard work and learn the hard lessons and make the mistakes and not lose all that. I mean, that's just, that kind of follows you around. Like, oh yeah. We gave Johnny Appleseed here. We gave him, $5 million. He fucked it all up.
Right.
On his first run. Is he going to get that second round?
I don't know.
But if you're like, Johnny Appleseed started with 25K and built a business to $5 million, I'll give him whatever he wants. Right. I think that holds a lot more weight. And if you're new and fresh, you need to be smart. So the older way to do it is just go to old-fashioned hard work. You work, like I worked one job and did a side hustle to build up the money to invest in this and do this. And now I'm working my ass off at this and the other job to build up the money for the next thing.
Have you had investors in your entrepreneurial endeavors?
For sure. Some of them have left. Some of them were like, why are we not seeing any profit? And also, like, there's enough people to be accountable to, especially this came up on another show earlier today that I did, where we were talking about why one becomes an entrepreneur. And it's, you think, oh, I'm going to be the boss. I want to be in charge. And you climb and you get all the way up to the top, and then you just fold back down and you realize, like, you're now accountable to everybody. You're accountable to your employees. You're accountable to every customer that comes across your path, because you are the last stop on the train.
Right.
Like, everything funnels directly to you. And then of course you're accountable to city, state, federal agencies, vendors,
and your investor.
And then if you've got investors on top of it, it's like, fuck. Like, at first it's like, sweet, this guy's giving me money.
Yeah.
And then when he's like, where's my money, man? You're like, shit, got this guy too on me. And it's like, I prefer to not, like, the next time my next go, I'm trying to avoid that, unless it's just like the next Uber or something like that, and you just have to have investment. I prefer to work with my own cash. And I think a big reason why a lot of companies went under or were just like begging for help in the last 7 months is because they were overextended, because there was this culture of just like, get money, just get capital, just refinance, do this, do that, and the offers were there for us. We did a couple things, and then I was just like, I really want to just like do this on our own and not have that also, because if shit does go down, which it did, a lot of these people were just like way far out. There was just like no coming back. So they either had to declare bankruptcy and shut down, or they had to now they're just accountable to the government, and the government, people are like, oh no, it's a grant, it's a loan, it's this and that. wait till they start knocking.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
gonna be pretty.
the flip side of that coin is that a lot of, entrepreneurial advisors will say never use your own money. So I find it interesting that you said I don't even want that anymore. I want to use my own, because I'm not saying they're right or you're right, but there is definitely I was going to say Howard said prevalent. There's a prevalent.
Prevalent. There's this prevalent ideology in the South.
There's a prevalent way of thinking that is like, never use your own money for your own ideas. Always try and raise it.
I would love to ask those people currently that said that what they're.
Yeah.
So that's all fine and dandy. Like that's not bad advice. But what's your backup when like everything else disappears? And that was the challenge everybody had to face
Walk
right
away.
now.
Walk away.
It's like it depends on what
it's the American way.
It depends. Yeah, I don't do that. It depends on the skin you have in the game,
right.
And what are you willing to walk away from?
You have all your skin in, which is amazing.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, at this point,
you got your whole body in.
Yeah, but at this point, the way that I've responded to everything and what I've built, it's it's a win no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The way the cards have fallen, and it had a lot to do with how we responded to COVID and the restrictions, and as opposed to what a lot of other, like say restaurants and businesses did. I think and that's good advice in like high times, but the high times is done.
The thing is like, so like and I was listening to your last show with Justin. What was his last?
Hawk.
Justin Hawk. I was going to say hockey.
Hawk.
And I know he has a real estate thing going upstate, which is something that's like the last part of what I'm doing. I have a partner that we're kind of into the Airbnb world, and we had our first acquisition was about to be signed up in Florida when COVID hit. But the thing is, don't
be playing with Florida.
Well, this is before that. The thing is in real estate, which is a world that I know better than any other world. You have collateral. So if you're looking for an investor, it's very easy to say, okay, here's the project that we're looking at. We're looking at this building. This is our plan. We're either going to convert it. We're going to, rezone it and change the zoning so that we can, take a residential and kind of make it commercial or this or that, or flip the building. That's easy to go to an investor and say, here it is, black and white, here's the collateral. If things go belly up, you own the thing.
Right.
But when you're dealing in pastrami,
right,
or film or whatever, you're dealing in the currency of ideas more kind of. Yes, there's a product with pastrami and hopefully someone can see the beauty if there is beauty there, but it's harder to find capital. You can't go to a bank. You can't go to someone. You're selling an idea and they either get it or they don't.
That's a very good distinction. So I think it's industry and investment specific. So with something like where you're the facilitator and there is like a tangible piece that they walk away with. Like, if it was like commercial real estate, I don't think I'd use my own money. I would,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I think if it's your brick and mortar business, like startup guys, they never use their own money. They're just like, no, invest. But it's and there's actually nothing to walk away with. But for that, it's a whole other game. But it's like you're betting on, the scalability and it going, like viral.
Yes.
Like the viral version of a business, especially like something that's app based, where there is no, there's no, rent.
Right.
Or, anything like that.
Right.
It's just
Overhead's like, right.
Hitting the button over and over again. And it's just going out now. That's a different story than investing in your own pastrami company or music label. Like then I think you gotta do it all on your own because the prize is all yours.
Yeah.
And, where when you're doing, I had a guy on the show recently that was in Virginia and he does the same thing where he just pulls capital from different people for something similar in terms of investment properties.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a fix and flip. Sometimes he just like borrows cash.
Yeah.
He'll borrow like 10 grand from like 10 people and they all get like $1,000 payout in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
But he just takes that and like does a bunch of real estate investment.
Yeah.
But he's a facilitator. He was a contractor.
Big business right now.
But he's not doing the build outs anymore. He's literally just finding deals. He's just connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And he makes cash for that. And for that, I'm sure he's not using his own money. I mean, obviously he's like just borrowing money from a lot of other people. In that way, you know, and he's been successful. I think you got to prove before you take a bunch of people's cash
that you can do it,
that it works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, that really screws everybody. All right, we're going to take another quick break. Hang tight. We're going to pick this back up in just a few. Okay, folks, we're back. Once again, the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my friend, neighbor, and fellow entrepreneur, Mark Friedman of Friedmans Pastrami. He's gone.
Can we say that if there's no LLC or there's no anything?
He's gone legit. Yeah.
I sold it.
Who needs that shit?
Right.
Having a great discussion about entrepreneurship just in general. Mark was asking about capital, where you raise the money. We were distinguishing which industries like you don't want to use your own money for, some that you definitely do. You don't want that extra person hanging over your head saying, hey man, where my money at? Because they will come knocking, especially if they just, and even here, like we had people that, you know, we had a couple of people that put in money early on and then they were just like, I want my money back.
Yeah.
Just like,
you know, the interesting thing is like, I've spent, again, many, many years with my harebrained ideas that were in the beginning conceived as harebrained ideas that I wanted to find investment for, because I thought, oh, I've just come up with the greatest idea for the next new business. How am I going to pitch this and sell this? But, you know, here's another very interesting thing that I've just recently learned about entrepreneurship. And it's not a new lesson. It's something that I've heard said over and over again, but never really had happened to me. And that is that if you go into something trying to make money, chances are you're not going to make any money. But if you go into something because it comes from something inside of you, a love, a passion, a this or that, and you have no real designs on turning it into a business, all of a sudden it can become one. I mean, this is something the pastrami, you know, Friedmans Pastrami. This is something that came from within, you know, like I came from a kitchen, like a restaurant background. And I've always enjoyed cooking and wine and booze and all of it, and got into slow cooking, like I'd say about 10 years ago, and bought my first grill, and then that kept going up, and I started making, you know, ribs and then briskets and pork shoulders and pork butts and the whole thing. And finally landed on pastrami. There's a real historical piece about why I chose pastrami. I mean, I am not doing barbecue. First of all, I want to make that clear. Like, Friedmans Pastrami is not about like Texas barbecue. There's a smoking aspect to what I'm doing, but like this is all historical. Like, and by the way, I think I'm the only one making handcrafted kind of artisanal pastrami. But the thing is that it came from somewhere inside of me that I really love to do it. I would sit in my kitchen, I'd butcher the meat, trim it, cut it, separate it, I'd, you know, brine it, rub it. I'd have like, you know, music going, playing music while I'm doing all this, and just sitting at home thinking, wow, life is grand. Like, there's nothing else I want to be doing. This is what I want to be doing. And then I said to you, let's see if we can do this one day. And now I'm sitting on your show talking about entrepreneurship and how we're going to grow this thing with you, probably most likely. And I think, like, to put a bow on this, it's really true. Like, the thing, when you don't want to make it a business and it comes from somewhere inside of you, and there's a passion, I hate to use that word, but
fine word.
I know, but it just seems so cliche.
But it's really not, and it's so true. And you said two things that really, I talk about this all the time. A guy came through here last week who wants to open his own restaurant, and he wanted to. He's a friend of a friend, so his friend brought him here. He's like, talk to Jeremiah, see what he has to say, you know. And I just said to him at a certain point, like, it's obvious that you're passionate about this, which is good, because there will be times where you're not making any money, and the only reason your business stays open is because you're passionate.
I heard you say this on the last show, actually.
Yeah, it's really, really important. I think I'd had dinner with them the night before I did that show.
Right.
So it was like fresh in my brain. It's just like, that's the only thing that gets you through sometimes. And I told him the same thing too. I was like, what's your intention? You know, and he was talking about like building it to sell it. And I was like, okay, that's great. But if you want to build it to sell it, you got to pretend that that's not what you're doing. You have to pretend that you're building a business that you're going to pass on to your children.
I don't know. Can you pretend though? Can you pretend? Like if you go in with the intention of pretending, then you really are going in with the intention of building like something to monetize, as opposed to just like letting it kind of unfold by, it's like the Beastie Boy kind of mentality.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say be so passive as to just kind of let it unfold. I mean, treating it as if it's a family member. Like if you really want to sell it, and everybody wants to sell high, nobody wants to sell low, you have to prove its value. And the best way to do that is like, look at this prize that I built. Not the reason why is I pointed this out, I made it very clear, is if you're building to sell, it's going to be based off of the business's profitability on paper. Right. So you're going to make little decisions that are going to help the paper more than the business.
Right.
Where if you are more focused on the business, you'll make decisions based off of people, like employees, customers, so on and so forth. You'll market it. We got into this whole conversation about, you know, restaurants that are charging the customer the merchant service fee now. You're allowed to do that. You can pass it on to them
for like credit cards,
for credit card purchases. You have to like post it and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you could do that. You know, I think that's short term. That's like transactional. And you're like, oh my God, we need to make some more money fast. Like that sucks. How about this? How about make sure your product is rock fucking solid, raise all your prices $1, and put that money into proper, like really proper marketing for your business.
Right.
I mean, everybody wins. So it's like, that's the difference, is like you make these decisions when you're thinking like, I got to make this business look more profitable so I can sell it. You'll do some silly shit like that.
Right.
So it's like, it slows the bleeding, but like that's not long-term,
right.
You know? So it's just one example. So those are the two things I think, is like, just pretend like it's going to be in your life forever. And how would you treat it if that was the case? Do that. And then keep that passion, because if you're not passionate about it, when the shit goes down, and it will, like everybody got a real taste of it recently. It's not, you know, that hasn't been the case, you know, in the last, you know, I think the last time it was really like this rough was probably the closest was like 2008.
Oh wait, yeah.
And so there's been a 12-year period where people were just like, I can try whatever I want. I don't have to be passionate about it. Oh, I can make money just doing this and that. And now it's like, we're back to square one. We're back to basics. It's about your passion and your stick-to-itiveness. And if you don't love it, you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to be committed.
I find myself at a crossroads right now, because after very early, you know, huge success. I mean, by any standard, right? Our first 2 pop-ups have been enormous successes.
Absolutely.
Right.
The feedback's been great.
I mean,
they were profitable.
Right? They were profitable.
I mean, your expenses are
it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge. Jeremiah has not charged me one penny in like rent.
I'm buffering a little bit.
Even though I've tried.
Because I like that.
I did pay sales tax.
Well, actually the customer did.
That's true. But the point is like, you know, as it relates to this conversation, so here it is. Like I have this thing that purely out of passion has turned, like we're exactly what everyone says. This was not built to be a business. This came out of just pure passion, and people are drawn to it and they can sense it and they feel it, and it's a hit. And now I have all of this business swirling around me. What to do next? We've been talking about this. You are starting a fledgling company that consults for people like me. So I think it would be very interesting to like sort of, I don't know, kind of like get your advice live and here, like where it's Friedmans Pastrami with the help of Jeremiah's consulting. Where can it go? What are the possibilities? I mean, this is like a perfect test case in entrepreneurship right here. Like we could track this, you know.
And we will. I think first is to utilize all your resources. That
Okay.
The only way Della is still open is because we utilized every last resource. I mean, I feel like every favor that I ever did for anybody, I'm like, okay, we're good now, you know, because
You called it in.
I didn't even have to, but people, I think most people just knew, and they were like, we're gonna, we'll help you out,
Right.
you know? Just really utilize all those little breaks you get,
Okay.
because you're undercapitalized, because there are so many, there's just like a tsunami of bad things waiting to happen to you, you know, as a business owner, especially when you get into like hospitality, brick and mortar. Like, it's just exponentially harder than if it was like digital services,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, or consulting. So I say, for as long as you can, ride out the fact that you can do these pop-ups with someone's generosity and not have that expense in there. God knows we have a number of little concessions like that here, and I've manipulated them the whole time with grace, you know, with gratitude, but like ride that out, and really like gauge. I've had this conversation with the guy that's helping with the consultation, and he was like, there's, you know, these two approaches. You can take the profit first approach, or like the business first approach, like operations. I think for you, it has to be profit first. So you gauge through these pop-ups how much you can bring in.
Right.
You know, we know the market value for like a sandwich, you know, and a drink, so on and so forth.
Have you heard any, by the way? I would love, if anyone was there, I would love some feedback. So please, like, you know, send me a message on Instagram at Friedmans Pastrami. But I have not heard any feedback in terms of like
the quality.
No, you mentioned the price. Like, is the sandwich, like, you know, is there enough on it for the price that's being sold? Like Katz's, for example, charges $30 for a sandwich, but you know, it is stacked. Yeah. I mean, we sold ours for 20, came with some extras, you know, like some coleslaw and a bag of chips, but like, were people satisfied with what they were getting? I don't know.
The feedback I've gotten so far has been yes.
Okay.
And I think you need to lean into the storyline that you started to tell. Like, this is about history for you. It's about the process, like all of that, man. That is huge. That is like just so much value in that, and people want the story. Yeah. So with your film background, you can do some nice social. Well,
Toby, I'm going to give it a shout out to Toby, who was our expediter. He crushed it.
It's great.
He's like, can I do the next one? I'm like, you're hired, man. Like he's amazing. But he's a storyteller by nature. Anyone, please look up Toby Oppenheimer. He did the Barack Obama movie for CNN. He did, it's called Last Days, I think. He just did another CNN film that just aired about the campaign trail called On the Trail. Anyway, he's a storyteller by nature, and he's very interested in what I've been pitching him, which is the history behind this, and like why what I'm doing is different than Katz's and what have you. And he and his wife came up with this idea of like having the story of Friedmans Pastrami like printed out like on the wrapper of the sandwich, so that you could like go home with it and read about it.
Your story should be everywhere, because that adds value. The one thing you have to do, I think you again, profit first, figure out like how to make that much money, and start to, you know, by process of elimination, okay, if we take a storefront, it's going to pull that much. Do
you see that as like where this is all heading? I mean, let's just cut to the chase. Is that like a year, 2 years, 3 years from now?
It's pastrami, yeah.
So a storefront is where like that's...
I mean, that might not be the best choice, and we'll kind of unpack that. We got to take another break, so we'll unpack that Pandora's box on the last segment. Hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Again, it's the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with Mark Friedman. And Friedman, he's like, it's getting tense, put me on the spot. And we were unpacking the trajectory of Friedmans Pastrami. So he's done 2 pop-ups here at a restaurant, Della, in Brooklyn, and they've been successful. The first one went very well. The second one, really, really well. Double production, sold out even faster.
Process even improved a little bit.
Improved, and those things will keep hammering down. And we were talking about taking the profit first approach to making this business viable. So like as of Saturday, we ran the numbers, and it was very profitable. Like, we ascertained what the take was, and I looked at Mark and I said, was that worth your time? And he goes, fuck yeah, it was. I'll do that again. So now the skill.
If you had asked me that on Thursday night when I was in day 2 of like up all day smoking, I might have been like, I don't know if it's worth it. But
Yeah, never ask when it's in the hot seat. You always got to wait until everything's done. And but you did. You look like you just got out of a fight. You're like, and you were like, yeah, no, I'll do that.
Service is always the best part, you know, when you get to be in front of the people.
But you got to get that feedback and know the passion is paid off. But so the ideology is like, see how much you can pull in on a given time frame. And we kind of made the joke like we've got a line out the door when we start at noon on Saturdays for these pop-ups. And I said, yeah, but if you opened a store, nobody would come.
Right.
So there's some beauty.
Well, there's a lot of talk about that. Like if you have a storefront, you know, it's not an event anymore. Now you can have it wherever you want. But then you look at Katz's Deli. I mean, they have a line out the door.
And they've got a great story.
It's got it. I mean, do people just like really like Jones over pastrami? Like, is that it? Is it the pastrami?
A lot of people do know because people did.
Holy crap.
So Saturday, and this is Entrepreneurship 101. Saturday, people were saying to me, man, I haven't gotten my pastrami fixed in so long because people aren't going the same routes that they used to go where they would pass by Katz's or whoever, you know, wherever their favorite pastrami place was. And so they're just like stuck in Windsor Terrace. And I was like, oh, I just never go like, you make me pastrami, so I don't have to worry about it. I was like, oh, there's no like a pastrami place around it? Like, no, there's nothing around here.
No, there's nothing.
So that's like ticket number one. Like, oh, okay, maybe.
I mean, you can get like the deli slice cold stuff.
Boar's Head doesn't count.
Right.
And then the second thing to consider, and we were just talking about this on the break, is that there's just a plethora of abandoned restaurants and cafes all over New York City, like thousands of them. There's not even key money involved in most of them. Some of them still have like tables and chairs. I think a friend of mine bought Barvis, the guy that owns a coffee shop across the street. He was on the show about a month ago. He just took over another coffee shop in Williamsburg. He said there was still milk in the fridge from April. Like the people just left.
Right.
And they're gone. And the landlord was like,
walk away. That's what I said to you before.
Yeah. He was
walk away.
He wanted
the American way.
They had no passion. I don't know. I'm American. I ain't walking away. God damn it.
Listen, man, if you've poured money into this and you're getting called, you know, on the money that you've put in and you don't have it, your only option really is to walk away.
This was more complicated because of the health risk involved too. So it was.
Anyway, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. A bit of a double entendre there for people to face, but the reality is that there's just like restaurants and cafes all over the city, and the cost of entry is exponentially lower, like 10% of what it usually is. A lot of the landlords are like, I just want like 4 months, and here's the keys, and everything is in there. So that's something to consider as you grow this. But really, like, kind of process of elimination. This is how much we're drawing on, like, call it an event. What is it going to cost if it's a truck? You know, like, it's easy to find out the numbers on that. Okay, that leaves us this much. It's still event-like. You could still promote it the same way. You could still have those big lines. If it's raining, you don't go, you know, so there's no loss, you know what I'm saying? You sell your pastrami another day, it'll hold up, it's fine. You know,
well, the history of pastrami is that it's built to last.
Yeah, right.
I don't have to throw it away because it's preserved.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things playing into your benefit, and a lot of ways for you to, I mean, when you deal with like social media, you know, best social media practices, the big companies all do like A/B testing. They're constantly like throwing stuff out on like dummy accounts or secondary accounts and like seeing what the response is. And they're like, okay, that's worked just like unanimously. That's what we're doing. That's our ad. You know, so you could do the same in the like real world.
Yeah.
You know, so you're like testing this, you're testing that. You know, one thing we realized the other day that people wanted at noon on Saturday with a pastrami sandwich is a freaking Bloody Mary.
A Bloody Mary.
I had all these great cocktails.
Smoky,
and I had no tomato juice, and I was just like, next time.
We're working on that.
Yeah. Your idea of like pastrami and
working on drinks
for
Hanukkah. Yes, look out. Next pop-up, Hanukkah.
There's some really great ideas. So the trajectory for you might just be like the truck that just like the cider donuts in the park. He's not there.
That feels backwards.
He's not there in the summer.
That feels backwards to me. So like, I have a lot of people coming up to me saying, oh, okay, so now you've done a pop-ups, you should do some more pop-ups. And first of all, they say, you know, a very strong advisor of mine, his name is Uri Kushner. He's in Portland. He and Jeremiah are my 1-2 punch of advisors. Uri has ice cream shops in Portland, which I am really upset right now that I can't remember the name of them. So I'm just going to say, look up Uri Kushner in ice cream and Portland, and you'll find his ice cream. They are the best shops in Portland. And he had told me that you have to decide what you want out of this. Do you want to just do like one pop-up a month or a couple a year and like make some vacation money? Or do you really want to go into this and make a business? So let's just assume for this conversation that the answer is to make it a business. The truck feels backwards to me. To me, I feel like the truck comes after the brick and mortar, because I would say like I want to have a home base first. And then you know that there's this place where you can come and get it. And then you use the truck for like, you know, special events, go here, go there. Someone can order for a catering event and have it here and there. But I'm not going to, I mean, what's the truck going to get me right now? You think the next step, this is a serious question now. Do you think the next step for me is like, okay, you've done a couple of pop-ups, now jump up on a truck and like go here, go there, go there. And I mean, I don't see that as a viable option. I see the truck as an extension of a brick and mortar.
What's the ice cream company here? Van
Leeuwen. Yeah.
They start out of a truck.
I'm sure a ton of places start, but they're younger, probably a lot younger, and they probably don't have careers like I have as well. You know, like if I was 25 years old, I'd get a truck and I'd travel across the country.
I wouldn't do a truck. I mean, right now nobody's going into like offices or anything anymore either. So like the weekdays doesn't make sense.
Right.
The point is that if it doesn't play out and work out the way you want it, all you got to do is sell the truck, which is pretty easy to do, versus you've got like a customized, built out restaurant.
Walk away.
I did not give him that consult, guys. That did not come from me.
You hate that.
See, this is.
No, I'm kidding. I don't want to.
He's my case study. I got to break this guy down. I'm end up choking his ass out with some jiu-jitsu before it's all over. Just for me, it's all about testing the waters.
But barrier of entry is so low right now to get into one of these brick and mortars.
Right. So this would be the only time. Like if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have been like, don't even think about a brick and mortar. Like, forget about it. You need to, I would say if you made enough profit off of your truck, my suggestion would still be to do the truck and do events. I said, if you made enough profit, if you just took all the profits from all your events and put it aside squarely and save $200,000, then I would say go and open a cafe, because you would have them in and enough for the first 6 months, because it would suck.
No matter now what. We're getting real.
Yeah.
Talking about
now we're done. So you're gonna have to come and do another show. That's all I got. See, that's how, gotta leave that cliffhanger, baby. Gotta get you coming back for more.
Listen, this guy has been
I don't put out on the first date, okay, Mark?
Right.
Not always.
Look at that face though. This guy, anyone out there who is looking to become an entrepreneur and build a business, this is where you want to go for some rock solid advice.
There you go. Checks in the mail. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This has been a pleasure.
Real.
Do you enjoy it?
Absolutely.
We'll do it again. Once he's legit. You got to make it though.
This is your baby as much as it is mine. I'm your test case for this new company you're starting.
That's crazy. He does have a point. All right. We'll circle back to this. We both are tasked with success now. We're going to make it happen.
I hope so, man.
And we'll bring it back. Thank you. Awesome. All right, everybody. You all have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Hanukkah at Della, Friedmans Pastrami.